Hello, this is Patrick W. Crawford from Moo-Ack Productions, and this is a little show demo of using the MCprep add-on and the Pro Lighting Skies to make what I'm calling the MCstudio series of images. So the challenge here is to use nothing other than the MCprep add-on as well as the Pro Lighting Sky add-on, both of which I was the developer for. So in this case, I'm just going to demo creating one of these renders. You can see a couple other examples on the screen now. But for this session, I have not done any prep. I have not decided even which mob I'm going to do, other than it's going to be one of the ones I have not done before now. And I'm just going to show how I create these renders. So I'm opening up the MCprep add-on here, and I'm going to look through ones that I have not done before. Let's see here. So I've done, at this point, I've done the snowman, I've done the ocelot, done a couple renders for the horse and iron golem, done a silverfish, did a spider, skeleton. I have not done a skeleton. Why don't we do that? So I'm just going to place in a skeleton. I'm going to uncheck clear pose. Part of the challenge that I have set for myself is to only use the default pose of the add-on. So basically I have to work with this pose and not modify it at all to create my render. I think this is going to be an interesting one because there's holes and so forth in the model, so you can get some nice shadows. So the next step would be to select my mesh here and go over to the Pro Lighting Skies, Studio settings, and press enable. So it's going to add in my bounding box here, and the first lighting step will be there. Although actually you notice that the textures are not set up for cycles, so I am going to select everything, or at least select my model here and press the prep material button, and you'll note that now the materials are working in cycles as it should. So next up, I'm going to press the floor, or enable the floor, and I'll probably keep it as a circle. That should be fine. I'll scale it in for now a little bit, and I'll worry about the material of the floor later, but for now I want to actually cycle through and just sort of decide what lighting setup I want. So obviously there are a ton here, but I'll just kind of start cycling through, and basically once I find one or two that I like, I will start going with that. Actually first I'm going to move the floor up a little bit. Bounding box does a good job of putting the floor where we want, but not always perfect. Alright, so I may speed up the video since this will be a couple-minute process, but I'm just going to start cycling through the different setups until I find one that I sort of like. So I actually quite like this setup here because of the purple and the strong warm color. So I actually might play around with this one a little bit more. So the next thing I'm going to probably do is mess around with the rotation of the setup a little bit. So I'll just try see what sort of angle I'm looking for here. So here I'm just modifying the rotation, which is effectively the same as just rotating this cube here, but I can see it easier here. So here I actually kind of like having some of the purple on the foreground of the model, so not just in the shadow. So I probably want to rotate even more around. I could put have some interesting shadows going on there. I could put the entire face into shadow. There's a lot of interesting details, so maybe I don't want that. I could do the entire forefront of the model in shadow, in this purple shadow, but no, I want to have some of it in the sunlight, so I'm going to keep rotating it around. See here, maybe a little bit more. Maybe it can get so it's starting to catch the warm lamp there. So I'll keep rotating it even more, a little bit more, and I'll start to see the face is getting illuminated by that warm color. But then you're getting some other nice shadows in here. So one tip I'm going to show is I actually want to have these shadows be a little bit sharper because I want to have sort of like see the rays going through the bow and stuff. So the way you can do that is to decrease the individual scale to something, say like 0.25, and then it looks very dim, but you notice the shadows are sharper. So then I'm just increase this, and undo that. I just moved the subject accidentally. And then the energy you can increase to because I've decreased the individual scale so much, I'm going to increase the energy to a lot higher, like 600% or something like that. Or even more like, even twice that, do 1200%. It's kind of a huge value, but that's just because the individual scale is so low. It decreases the size of each individual lamp, and if you decrease it to 25%, the overall area of the lamp is actually 25% square. So just you have to increase the energy quite a lot to do that. But already I actually quite like this a lot. I'm going to keep adjusting my slider here until I find exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just kind of looking for those like nice shadows, kind of what's going on here. Do it a little bit more, see if I like it more in that direction. See if maybe I want to move it back some. Again, I want to keep some of the face in the light there. But I'm also paying attention to the shadow of the bow on the floor, because that's quite interesting. Alright, do a little bit more to the right, just get to the faces a little bit more illuminated. And I think I will call that good for at least the lighting setup. Alright, so the next stage would be, I suppose, framing. So I'm going to align the camera to view. I'm going to set my camera to the same resolution I'm doing for all of these renders, so it's a square. And then next I'm going to go into render mode, then go into walk navigation. So now I'm able to actually move around while I'm still in render view and see kind of what I'm looking at. So I'm thinking I want to do something with the shadow being a large part of the composition. So maybe I'll kind of go over to the side here, but still keep the figure in the top left hand corner, then the shadow in the bottom right. Maybe I want to scoot it more over here. It could be something like that. Maybe I want the shadow going off the screen completely. That could be a thing I do. Maybe something kind of like that. All right, and then I'm going to press enter and just go back into solid mode just to see if I want to adjust it any more. I'm going to clear out any Y rotation on the camera just to keep the horizon flat. But so far I kind of like that. That looks all right to me. The next step would be to play around with the backgrounds a little bit. So again, everything is done in render for this challenge. So I'm going to do some of the built-in backgrounds, for example, to start off with. Let's see what I want to do. So I'm going to cycle through a couple of these. See what I like here. I think actually I might first look at the textures. I'm going to clear, maybe do like a vertical column here. And then I'm going to look through the textures that I would actually want for this setup. So looking at the different textures. Make this mask scale more like that. Maybe a little bit wider. Something like that. Alright, it's not a bad texture background. Kind of matches, I suppose. So what if we choose that one, and then the color doesn't match at all. So for this, I'm going to pick a color from the rendered view. So I'm going to let it render a little bit so it gets smoother. And let's give that a try. Alright. So that's a little bit strong looking. So I'm going to maybe bring down the saturation of this value a little bit. And let that render for a moment to see if it kind of blends. Then for the background here, it looks like the X offset and the Y offset got moved around a little bit. So I'm going to just scale this back in. Going to put this mask scale out some so we have some of the dark edges on the sides. Let's see here. We actually might want to move it so that well, I'll leave that for now. All right, so looking at the floor next. So I'm not sure if I actually want any textures, but I'll look through in a couple of them, see if I want anything. But it could be that having no image texture overlay is all I want for this setup. And you note that I have the settings fade floor on, so that's or fade edges. If I were to disable that, you notice that you just kind of get to the edge of the model like that. So keeping fade edges enabled is very nice. But I probably want something like a sort of white-esque texture. Something to kind of match the texture, the bones. We're to have some textures, maybe like this one actually could be okay. See what this looks like. Actually, I quite like that. That's a nice texture. And in that case, I actually might go back to the backgrounds and look for another sort of grainy background texture here on one of the other plaster textures. It's like this one has a little bit more contrast in it. What about this one? Might be a little bit too much. No, actually that's all right. And then if I let's see here, I increase. I think if the background seemed a little bit too bright, so bring that down a titch there. Let that render for a moment. All right. It's looking all right there. It almost looks like I actually just have the backdrop floor enabled, but that's all right. For the lights, I think I actually might increase even more, just because it is still quite dark on the model itself. Even do it more like 1800%, just to really brighten it up on the model. But that in contrast will make the floors a little bit too bright, so I'll go back to the floors and I'll actually just bring this down some more, so that should darken it some. I'll have to do, actually at the setting here, do the settings. So if I just bring, I can just bring the opacity of the floor down a little bit. That will effectively make that happen. So it's going to mix with the darker color. Make it mix with black even, just to really make it dramatic. So, so it went all the way down there, it'd be black. So I want to do something kind of more in the middle here, so just to darken it a little bit. As it renders, that will come through. Yes, that's a little bit better. And then in the background, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to darken this just a little bit. And that looks pretty good. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my render samples to be just, say, just reach 10. That'll be good for now. What I usually do at this point is I'll mess around with the colors a little bit. So this may be something you don't look at very often, but under the scene setting, where is it? World, scene. Here it is. So color management, use curves. So this is something that is sort of like compositing, but it's again in frame. So I'm still using my in-frame rendering technically, but I'm using this to my advantage a little bit. So I'm going to just play around with the colors a little bit. I'm going to do a very, very quick render, just a couple samples just so I can sort of see what my color layout looks like. All right, so that looks good. So that's just a couple samples, like I said. I'm going to change this to the image viewer, look at the rendered image, render result. And now I'm going to modify my colors here. So you can see in real time it updates my overall scene, so I can actually see what my colors look like. Simultaneously, I'm going to open up the T just to see sort of the spread of my colors. Already, it actually doesn't look too bad. So it's not like I have something where it's like nothing is in the bright and it's all a bunch of the dark. That happens a lot. But right now, that looks, kind of the spread of it looks all right. Let's see if I want to punch it up a little bit, different parts of the scene. Could go something for like that. Could make it very dramatic and just bring this way down. That could be something interesting, but I don't want to do it quite that much. So it's this is kind of just like playing around with it. I want the face to be a little bit brighter, so I'm going to move this up. See kind of where it is that the face is the main focus, or the main section of these curves. Something kind of like that. That could be all right. And then to further tweak it, I'll go into the just the blue channel even. I'll see if I can kind of mess around with this. I'll kind of modify how the blue comes out in the render by just kind of messing around with this a little bit. You see that has a dramatic effect if I move this left-hand side up too far. That's sort of saying the lowest blue color is not 0, so the black becomes more blue as I move this up. That's a little bit dramatic, so I'm going to move that back down. I think it's just little tweaks here. It's kind of small. It has an interesting look. This kind of will make the, yeah, something like that. And see if, I don't know what I want to do with the red. Oop, that's the green. I don't really want to modify the green too much. Modifying with the red. See what that looks like. Just kind of experimenting a little bit. Ooh, that's a completely different color right there when you completely move all the reds. That's quite interesting, but I think I want to keep in that warmness to it. And okay, I can do something like that. So, I don't know, I think that looks good to me. Roughly there. A little bit of purple, a little bit of red. Maybe bring this up a little bit more. Yeah, why don't we do something like that? All right, so in that case, my render is basically done. So all I have to do now is render out to however many samples I want. Usually I just leave it on a very large number and then leave, come back, and once it's ready, I will press escape and then save out the image. So I'm going to go ahead and press, first I'm going to save my file. That's always a good thing. So Skelly. And now I'm going to press render and let it go. And so now we have our completed render after about 500 samples. So I hope you enjoyed this little demo video. If you're interested in learning more about the MCprep add-on, see this video here. If you're more interested about the Pro Lighting Studio add-on, definitely check out this over here or in the link below. And then you can check out the DeviantArt or the Facebook page for more renders from the MC Challenge series. Until next time.